Oh, all right. Yeah. How everybody doing at the plug? Got to plug my computer in. Saw the battery was low. But yeah, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Another week. Sunday night special, week 8. Recapping the Bears and the NFL and everything. Yeah, we just get set up here. Finish up. All right. Thanks for everyone who may join us. Just thank you ahead of time who has joined us in the past. Hopefully, you guys can, if you're not joining us live, whenever you're joining us, just share and like and everything, comment if you but if you like what we're doing, show love and we'll show it right back. And yeah, just back at it for another week. Um, you know, Bears finding new ways again to keep us interested and anywhere from interested to enraged. The Bears are just finding ways to win. They just as they found ways to win games, all type of ways in those first 5 wins. They seem to be finding new ways to lose games now, and we got some sort of at a crossroads right now, trying to see what this team is or what they're gonna do. And yeah, we'll get into that in a minute here. Got a special guest with me, Gabe Salgado, NFL writer from Athlon Sports, is going to join me in a minute. But yeah, we just been a another wild Sunday. 26-23 Bears lose in overtime to New Orleans. What to think about it. Some positives, offensively, you got to see the running game reestablish itself some, and it was, good to see early on what the Bears did. 70 yards or so of rushing in that first half, which outdid just about almost all of their games total in their rushing, except for like 1 or 2 leading up to this one. And we saw that. We saw A-Rob got off again pretty well, pretty good game. Mooney was good. Got his another second score of the year, and Anthony Miller. Really good performances throughout with the receivers. Tight ends though was another issue. We'll get into that in a little bit. But you look at Foles. He was had his issues, but I think an overall decent game from him. Actually, if you look at the numbers, he just execution wise, there's still some issues with him and Nagy, and that's the main thing. The offense right now. We'll get into the defense as well. I think there was definitely some good spots with the defense. Even though as we'll go back and forth on what's good and what's bad on this. But let me bring Gabe in right away here. He's giving me some time here. I know he's busy man, but Gabe, man, thanks a lot for joining me.
Appreciate it. Can you guys hear me over there?
Yeah, I'm hearing you fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound good. But yeah, Gabe,
just gotta make sure, man. These live streams nowadays, everybody's doing it, so it has its glitches here and there.
Yeah, it happens. We got a pretty good platform here, so we everything's pretty good. So yeah, you sounded well, man. No, man, I'm glad you wanted to come along. We wanted to do this a couple weeks ago, I think, but couldn't make it happen. But I'm glad you were able to keep interest with us, man, and hang out. But like I said, NFL writer for Athlon Sports. Been covering NFL for a while, covering the Bears and everything as well. And like I said, I gave out some of my initial thoughts. I think the Bears were competitive today, but it seems that once again they face a team with enough qualities to neutralize them and make them make them show their flaws in ways where, it's just, for us who see them every week, it's just so frustrating because it's the same things. It seems to be every week that's at the heart of their failures. And it's hard to get, you can't get over them when you see them every week. But, you see some incremental improvements in some ways. And then you see them do certain things well for a portion of the game, but then they fall back into bad habits. Like I said, with the run game was good early on, but in the second half they didn't do anything with it again, and they were playing like they were playing like they typically play when they're in a tight game or they were playing from behind and they're relying on the passing game, but they don't execute the passing game always like they should. And of course, I think the main thing that's really frustrating with them, and really one of the wildest things that probably any team in the league has done this year, is the Bears' drought in the third quarter. Still not scoring in the third quarter. Haven't scored all year in the third quarter. That's really crazy. And of course, in the third quarter, that's punctuated with the Javon Wims incident. Now that I'm sure that's going to be a big deal going into tomorrow. Thinking? Yeah. And like I said, I think it's going to be a big deal going into this week. But you have that, of course, the foolishness that goes on there. And right after that, Foles throws his interception. He really should have had a couple interceptions in the game, but luckily he only had the one. But it came right after the Wims play, and where he got kicked out. But that's just an overall take on the game, for the most part. Give me your take, Gabe. What your thoughts, man? What did you think about this game? Like I said, it was a competitive game, playing against a competitive team, but they just didn't have enough.
Yeah, Kyle, I'll tell you, definitely had a headache after watching that one. The Bears, the Bears had their chances to win. They couldn't capitalize on the few opportunities they did have. They, didn't really make the most of the few opportunities that they created for themselves. In fact, this defense, they're still not the same unit that we saw the last couple of seasons, dominant, getting to the quarterback, forcing turnovers. Khalil Mack is on the injury report every week, and it kind of makes you wonder, is that the reason why he's not producing at the level he's normally capable of producing at? He's not getting to the quarterback as much this year. We thought that maybe he turned the corner against Tampa Bay. Hasn't really been the case. Yeah. His production's gone back down since then. The defense had, ample opportunities, dropped interceptions today. That was frustrating to watch. And, the offense, they had success in the run game early, changed in the end. I think probably the more frustrating part, though, is just this offensive line, their inability to give Nick Foles time, even when he's in the shotgun, even when he's 4, 5, 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, still doesn't have time and has to settle for those short passes because the offensive line is not keeping the other team in front of them to let him complete those deep passes. We know he's capable of doing that. And, we kind of got the eye-opener about that last week when the Bears, went to Los Angeles and lost to the Rams. So it was great to see that fourth quarter drive. They pulled off the 2-minute drill, got the field goal, forced the game to go to overtime. But the thing that stood out to me the most, and again, it's kind of an indication of, how much farther the Bears need to go, what they need to work on. The Saints were fearless out there today. They went for it on fourth down against this defense. They didn't have any fear. They ran the ball at the Bears. The defense, the Saints defense blitzed, Nick Foles, even though they were doing just fine with just a regular pass rush. And later in the game, they were blitzing. They were getting pressure. They were doing everything right on their end. The Bears had definitely given an effort. But, this team is definitely going to have to go back to the drawing board and do a lot of film study and whatever else they need to work on. But the big key for me, though, is just, seeing Khalil Mack on the injury report every week, doesn't bode well for this team moving forward. If he needs to take a week or two off to fully heal whatever's bugging him, because every week it seems to be something different. But, not having him at full speed and, getting the quarterback the way we're accustomed to seeing is definitely not helping this team. But, there's issues on both sides of the ball, but there's also good things on both sides of the ball. And if it wasn't for the Packers losing today, the Bears wouldn't still be in first place right now. So, um,
Yeah.
the Bears are just a mixed bag right now. It's good to watch when they have success. It's frustrating to watch when they don't. And they're 8 games into the season now, so they're already halfway through the season. So really, it's now or never at this point.
Yeah, that's a good you make some good points there, man. I think, just jumping off your last point, with the Bears, the urgency should be coming in right about now, because you get off to this good you get off to this good start, and it makes it makes for, it hides the tough things that we see with this team, and the things
Right.
that, the difficulties, we can put them to us aside for a moment, because we know that we have room to breathe as far as having got off to a better start than most teams in the league. But now you have a really an embarrassing week overall, where you're talking about two losses on national TV. Essentially, you have the announcers in two different ways embarrassing you. Brian Greasy on Monday night, you have the incident where he brings out the team business in a way that
Yeah.
they don't want, and we get to and the nation gets to be privy to how the Bears offense is not being ran well, and the dysfunction and the miscommunication that is really at the center of what's going on with their dysfunction, with them not being able to score and being able to compete. And today you see with really Troy Aikman just dragged the team through the entire broadcast. Like he was getting in them, and I loved it, man, the whole way. I loved how he just did not pull any punches with what he was seeing on that field. When he saw that they couldn't get the plays out, he was letting them know that this is not the way that you run an offense. When they're making short throws that are high, that aren't getting them first downs, they aren't making the first down marker, and with these plays that they're calling, it's he let them have it. And I
Yeah.
think that's the Bears have to really face up to what their insecurities are, their lack of their lack of offensive presence, because Nagy he's been too positive. He's too
Right.
positive of a guy in most cases. And I saw a little bit of his post game today, talking on the Fox post game show, and he actually showed a little bit of his frustration today, which I'm glad to see it, but at the same time, a lot of what we're gonna see today, we can't let happen, is that it gets pushed off to other things, like the offensive line, because the offensive line is dealing with injuries, like Javon Wims, who just, like I said, we just engaged in some foolishness, and
Yeah.
we still have to learn more about that incident. But we can't just let that stuff play off to what the real issues are. And I think the real issues at heart is the lack of leadership from the coaching, and the lack of ability to adjust with their quarterback and with their offensive line. If they can't do these things, then they're not going to ever score in the way that they need to. They're not ever going to put together drives in the way that they need to go against these better teams. And you look at New Orleans. New Orleans, they're a good team, of course, but they're not nearly as explosive as they are in typical years. The Bears got off to a 13-3 lead in this game. Could have been 17-3 very easily before the half. They let up let that one touchdown right at the end of the first half, and then that gets into a 13-10 game. But they come out. They had the ball first in the end of the beginning, I should say, of the third quarter. They had the ball first, and again we see the issues in the third quarter, the lack of scoring in the third quarter, where that's supposed to be a time where, especially if you get the ball first coming out of halftime, you should be ramming things up. You should be putting the pressure on your opposing team, and they just cannot do that.
Yeah, the only score in the third quarter was that quarterback sneak at Carolina. That's the only time that they found the end zone or any points of any kind in the third quarter so far this year. And, again, the offensive line, when you see your offensive line struggling to push the defense forward in the run game, the last thing you need to be doing is running draw plays out of spread formations in that situation, because it doesn't help your offensive line. If you're going to run, give your offensive line a chance. Use power formations. Use two tight ends. Throw a fullback in the backfield if you have to. Not saying it's going to work, but at least give your offensive line a chance, because you're lining up 4 wide receivers, and then you're going to try to catch the defense off guard with just a simple draw play. But the offensive line can't block everybody, so the defense swarms to the ball. This isn't college football. This is the NFL. And, and again, that carries over to the passing game as well. Nick Foles, if you give him the time, he's going to be effective, but they're not giving him the time right now. And,
right.
It's just frustrating to watch, because you see, the way that they came from behind to defeat Tampa, finally beat Tom Brady for the first time in franchise history. The way that they went to Carolina and handled business, it looked like something was happening. Then they completely fell apart in Los Angeles, and then of course, the frustrating aspects of the game, got the better of them today. Again, they forced overtime. They made a game of it, but this team definitely has a lot to work on moving forward, but there just isn't enough time in the season to fix everything that's wrong with this team. And at some point, do you look at the coaching? Do you look at general manager Ryan Pace? Because he's the one that puts, these coaches and these players on this team. These are, at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. And it kind of makes you wonder, and obviously surrendering first and second round draft picks every year to make trades. Obviously, that paid off in the case of Khalil Mack, but it hasn't really paid off in other areas, and the jury's still out on Nick Foles. So, some of the decisions he's made too, it kind of makes you scratch your head. So, there's 8 weeks left in the season. Hopefully, the Bears can get some type of improvement, but there's a lot that they need to work on moving forward. And now they have to go play at Tennessee next week, and God forbid, Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards on them because they don't have their act together.
Right. That very well could happen. I think one encouraging thing is that they lost to Cincinnati today, who is, you can't say they're a lesser team, but at the same time, they have a quarterback in Cincinnati, and they could get the ball, they could get the ball on you through the air, and that's something that the Bears can only do at times. Like Foles is a guy who is, he's very streaky. He can put together a 6 of 6 or 7 of 7 drive with ease, but he also has these drives where he can't get the ball. He can't get the ball out the pocket quick enough because he's, in part because he's not getting blocked well. But I saw too many times today where he ran into pressure, or he doesn't have the ability like Mitch, interestingly enough, to break a play out, from the pocket and actually run with the ball. He doesn't have that confidence in himself. So, he's not athletic like that. So he's not going to do that for you. He's not going to extend plays like that. He has to either have a quick out, or he has to have a really secure pocket for like 6 or 7 seconds to be able to do what he wants to do. And even then, of course not. And it definitely happened with the Bears' offensive line, not with people like Rashawn Coward, blocking for him and stuff. And there were times too where like Leno was on the ball more than him entering a play. Like, a couple of those false, the delay of games. Like there's a couple of delay of games where Leno was sort of signaling to him to hike the ball because, Foles wasn't even seeing that the play clock was running out. So I'm like, it's just to me that type of stuff. For one, it shouldn't be an issue 8 games into the season, and it shouldn't be an issue for a guy who's been a Super Bowl MVP. You know, we have to wonder just what do we have here in this guy, and to that degree, you know, online, I don't know how much you were seeing on Twitter or whatnot. People were actually calling for Mitch again this week, and I will get your thoughts on that. Like, did that run through your mind at all? Did that run through your mind at all today?
You know, that doesn't surprise me. If you take a look at Foles' first full game, that game against the Colts, where they only scored 11 points, fans were calling for Trubisky to come back into the game then. That doesn't surprise me. But again, Mitch has his deficiencies too. You know, doesn't read a defense as well as Foles does. Doesn't recognize coverages. And the problem with Mitch is that he likes to key in on one open receiver and hope that he can make that throw. And if not, he takes off and runs. But again, he has that ability that Foles doesn't. But again, you know, just the fact that he doesn't read through his progressions well is ultimately what his downfall was. So, you know, again, if the Bears don't, you know, the quarterback is the leader of your team, regardless. Quarterback's the leader of your team, most important position in the game. And regardless of, you know, what the offensive line is doing, if you don't have a quarterback that can adjust to situations, that can handle, and at least mask the other deficiencies within the team, the Bears aren't doing that right now, and it doesn't bode well for them moving forward. And you know, it's crazy because the Bears have a winning record. They're at the top of the division right now, but we're pointing out, you know, all the bad areas because, you know, in their losses, they've played sloppy. And even in some of their wins, you know, some of the play calling, you know, has been questionable. Yeah. Some of the decision-making has been questionable. So, you know, I think it's fair to say that, you know, the Bears, they're a winning team, but they're not a great winning team.
Yeah, and we keep having these chances where we can possibly prove ourselves. But, you know, like I say, that's part of what's embarrassing to me about this week. You have two teams that are winning teams that you know are going to be in the mix with you for a playoff seeding, whether you're on top of the division or not, you know, going into the playoffs. You know, New Orleans and the Rams are going to be the type of teams that are going to be, you know, in the mix for wild cards possibly with you. And, you know, you mess up opportunities with both of them. And, you know, that's just not the type of competition that I want to see from this team, you know. But, you know, let's you know, before we, you know, go off in the rest of the league and stuff, I want, you know, there were some, let's try to dredge up some positive stuff. Like, you know, I want to give some shouts to on defense, particularly the linebacking core. I thought they had a very good game overall, especially Roquan and Danny Trevathan. I love their energy today. I thought they really did a lot, in my opinion, to contain the Saints' ability to make plays make yardage after plays and get up the field for the most part, except for, you know, Kamara broke out a few plays, but, you know, Kamara is Kamara, so it's hard to contain them throughout the day. But I think with a lot of their, you know, with the rest of their receivers and their tight ends and stuff, they had a lot of problems going across the middle throughout the day because of the linebackers and you know, a lot of their stretch runs and stuff like that they were trying to do out to the, you know, just getting out to the outside on the linebackers. They had a hard time, and it was good to see them paired with, you know, again, that energy that we typically see, the ability to you know, break up plays in the defensive backfield. Again, you know, Fuller and Johnson and, you know, basically everybody in that defensive backfield. You know, I thought again this was another pretty good performance from them. I think again with the defense, they just have to play too much of the game, and they have too much weight on them to make plays and to get the ball away from the opposing team in order for the Bears to actually have control of the game. You know, otherwise it's just always up in the air with them.
Yeah, it could have been much worse. You know, obviously we know the type of explosive player Kamara is. You know, the Bears did, you know, a pretty decent job against him. And definitely, you know, I'd have to agree with you. They didn't give up a whole lot across the field. Obviously, there are some plays you'd like back, like the, dropped interceptions. You'd like a better pass rush, but just like you said, the defense has been the heart and soul of this team, and they've kept this team afloat. But just like you said, they can't do it forever. On offense, it was good to see Allen Robinson catch that touchdown. There was concern about whether or not he was going to be able to play. It was just a couple of days
Right.
ago that he was in concussion protocol. David Montgomery, had a couple of breakout plays. He's
Yeah.
on the verge of really having that breakout game. If he just had better blocking in front of him, and
He needs to
again,
get the ball. Gabe, he needs to get the ball. In spite of how bad the offensive line is, you got to make sure to get him the ball at least 20 times a day. He got 21 today for 89 yards. You get that man the ball 20 to 25 times a game, he's going to get you 80 yards at least, 70, 80 yards of rushing, and then you can have another 4 or 5 targets for him passing. He can make plays, and he's one of the hardest backs in the league to bring down.
Yeah, and definitely has that breakaway speed as well once you get him out in the open field. I also got to give a little bit of credit to Foles. He had a rough game, but you know what? He took some sacks that could have been avoided, and obviously, not being able to make those big throws, but he kept picking himself up, dusting himself back off, getting back in that huddle. And again, even though he took those short throws on many plays, Mitchell Trubisky wouldn't always take those short throws. He would take an unnecessary risk. Or how many times have we seen him try to run away from pressure, and he ends up running away out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage and losing yards? At least Foles will try to make something out of nothing. And so you got to give him some credit as well, even though he didn't have the greatest game. And like I said, we find positives with this team, but it's the negatives that are ultimately weighing this team down.
Yeah, it's you take your good and your bad with seemingly with every element of the team. I think, but one thing too that I do like about the team and the way and you can, this is actually some props for the coaches too, which is rare, but they are being a little bit more reactive to You wish they'd be more proactive, but they're being a little better with the reactions to things that are messing them up, like the special teams. Special teams was a big issue in that Rams game, and you look at how horrible a Ted Ginn was in returning. He gets pulled out. We don't see any Ted Ginn today. They brought in Harris, so that's the type of thing where it's like, okay, you see something's messed up. Like, pull a guy out. The guy's not working for you. Pull him out. That's why, and we look at today with Wims, some people are looking at Wims. His job may be on the line too, because he did such a big job to mess up the momentum today too. So he may have put his job on the line by trying to be a tough guy. But anyway. But
he doesn't get
I'm just saying, with the go ahead.
Yeah, Wims doesn't get a ton of playing time to begin with, and to get that opportunity to get on the field and you make such a stupid mistake like that. I mean, I understand football is a physical game, but if you're that upset, go after him on the next play. Don't wait until the whistle blows and then punch the guy in the head. I mean, that was very foolish on his part, and just like you said, he may be cut by tomorrow morning for all we know for that. Definitely wasn't a smart decision on his part, especially since the Bears need more out of their wide receivers at the bottom of the depth chart. There's only so much that you can expect everybody else to do. So he had an opportunity to make an impact, didn't do it. Got himself penalized, an unnecessary penalty. It was just a bad situation there. So again, it was great to see Allen Robinson back out there. Jimmy Graham had a couple of drop passes today, but he has been better this season as opposed to how he was playing in Green Bay. So he's definitely shown that he still has it. But but again,
it'd be nice to see more from It'd be nice to see more from him, and it'd be nice to see more from Komet too. Komet was pretty disappointed in it.
Yeah, they bailed him out on that fumble. The referees bailed him out on that one. That was a fumble. That was a fumble all day.
Definitely.
And but the good thing is Komet has potential. We've already seen flashes of that potential in the early goings of the season. Jimmy Graham again. He's had his moments as well. Even though he's getting older, but again, 8 games into the season, and there's just a lot of little things that this team needs to fix. And these are things that you shouldn't, again, like you said earlier, shouldn't have to worry about at this point in the season. We're halfway through the season now, but like I said, if the Bears can get at least some of those things cleaned up, they'll give themselves a better chance. Again, remember, they still have 2 games against Green Bay left this season. That hasn't even happened yet. So, but now they're going to go play Tennessee. Just like I said, Derrick Henry's going to be, hard for their defense to handle. Ryan Tannehill has had a career resurrection, if you will, in Tennessee. And, so Tennessee's definitely a capable team, even though they, just like you said, they lost to the Bengals today, but they're still a very capable team. And the Bears are going to have their work cut out for them next Sunday, no doubt.
Yeah, Gabe Salgado, Athlon Sports, NFL writer with me, Sunday night special. Thanks to everybody. We getting it live in the comments today, man. Thanks to everybody who's been leaving comments and everything and showing us love and everything. That's what I want to see every week, man. Let's keep it going, y'all. We'll be back next Sunday night, 9:00 every Sunday. Come and join us. But let's get back to a little bit of league-wide action. Like you say, Gabe, you mentioned in the division a big loss for Green Bay this week. It's kind of tears you apart as a Bears fan because you're glad to see Green Bay lose, but you don't want to see Minnesota gain any encouragement either. But Minnesota they definitely needed that win more than Green Bay. They got it today, and it allowed the Bears to have some sort of room for error. At least today, they didn't give up first place in the division wholly, and they're still tied 5-3. Both the Bears and the Packers are. So, looking at that game, what do you think that says for the division going forward overall?
There certainly isn't the same Minnesota team that we had seen over the last couple of seasons. They lost a lot of players from last year, and obviously they haven't quite fully replaced some of that talent yet. But obviously this was a huge pick-me-up for them. They struggled all season. And, getting the win against the Packers, a team that they've struggled with in recent seasons, especially since the Packers have pretty much ruled the division for the most part. So this was definitely a huge win for them. They definitely, exposed some slight flaws from the Packers offense. There's not a whole lot of flaws within that offense, but they found a way to rattle Aaron Rodgers' cage. And, they found a way. They did just enough against that Packers defense. A lot of athletes on that Packers defense, a lot of speed and, a lot of skill on that defense. And they found a way to score just enough points to win. And, perhaps maybe the Bears could take a pointer or two from that game for when they play Green Bay later this year. But just like you said, the last thing that we need is Minnesota catching up and the division race as well. But certainly was good to see Minnesota get that win, try to get past some of the struggles that they've had. But Bears fans are obviously happy about that one, the Packers losing another game. But, we've also seen many times, the Packers, they lose a tough game, but then they come back and, they punish their next opponent. So, the Packers definitely have that capability, and we'll just have to see, what happens next week.
Yeah, and Lions got blown out by the Colts, so they looked worse against the Colts than we did. So that's not the worst thing there. But you look at elsewhere in the conference in the conferences, AFC and NFC. Going back again, next week's opponent, Titans only scored 20 against those Bengals too. So that may be a situation where, if you're the Bears, you look at a team like the Bengals being able to hold them to 20. You got to be encouraged about your potential to hold that team to 20 or under, even though, again, they have that beast in Henry, man, and they have a good offense, overall balanced offense with Tannehill, AJ Brown, some good receiver core, but The Bears, you have to figure you have a better defense than Cincinnati. So if Cincinnati go hold them 20, even if you're playing them in Tennessee, maybe you can make be able to play the game that you're comfortable in playing and being able to hold that defense, hold them down with your defense as well. So, we'll see about that though next week. But what'd you think about that big game between the Steelers and the Ravens? 28-24, Pittsburgh. They seem to really be asserting themselves as one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league right now.
Not surprised that it was a close game. I actually felt bad for Baltimore because they were driving at the end of the game, but they just couldn't complete the comeback. But you expected it to be a close game. Again, the Steelers are the only unbeaten team left in the NFL. I don't think anybody's going to touch them right now. And again, just like you talked about that Colts-Lions game, Phillip Rivers is a completely different player this year. It's not the situation in San Diego where everybody relied upon him, and then, he had talent around him, but they relied upon him. This time he facilitates everybody else on the field around him in Indianapolis. And, we saw that today as they defeated Detroit. And, since I didn't get to join you last week, I want to touch on last week's Sunday night game really quick between the Seahawks and the Cardinals, the Kyler Murray versus Russell Wilson show. I'll tell you what, if you bet money on that game and if you're a fantasy football player, you either were very happy with what you saw or you were very disappointed, because that was probably the most entertaining game that I've seen this season. It was definitely fun to watch. Didn't really have anything like that this week, but I just had to touch on that because that was a very fun and entertaining game to watch, just seeing, the two quarterbacks guide their teams and kind of steal the show there. But obviously, NFL means not for long. We've known that for years, and obviously, there's a little more balance in the league this year as far as separating, the top teams from, the non-contenders. But there's still half a season left to go, and we could see some things change as the season progresses.
Yeah, of course, you put out that old saying about not for long, and you look at the Seahawks today. They, we didn't get to see the Cardinals today, but I guess they're off this week. But the Seahawks they came back and played, and they won today. Got a 37-27 win over the Niners, which is key again, being in their division. But you look at some of these scores, that goes right into the not for long saying, like you say, Gabe, man. I want to touch on a couple in particular. The big AFC East matchup with the Bills and the Patriots. The Patriots really have they ever been this down since they've been under Bill Belichick? You have to really wonder at this point. They're like 2-4 now. They lost a game now to the Bills, and it's really looking like they're not even going to make the playoffs. Let alone win that East division. Cam doesn't know what to do. He's looking as frustrated as ever. And reports are coming out of Boston that they're willing to sell off just about anybody on that team for the deadline. What do you think? Have we finally seen the end of the New England dynasty?
That could very well be the case. I actually kind of felt bad for Cam Newton seeing where he fumbled the game at the end. They were driving, had a chance to kind of make something happen there at the end, fumbled the ball, ended up costing them the game. But this team definitely has struggled. Again, not the same team that they've had in years past. We all thought that maybe Cam Newton could offset the departure of Tom Brady, but at the same time, if the guys around you are not doing well when you're not doing well, it doesn't kind of help the team. And maybe they do need to rebuild. Yeah. Obviously, we're talking almost 2 decades of success and multiple championships. The only time the Bears ever had that was when George Halas was the coach. So what Bears fans would do for that type of success now. So look. Yeah. When Bill Belichick first got the job in New England, they were rebuilding. You saw what he did. turn them into a winner. The rest is history. I think, I don't think it would. I mean, obviously, it may hurt the ego of Patriots fans because they're so used to seeing successful football year in and year out. But I don't think it would be a bad idea to hit the reset button and kind of start from scratch and get some new players, get some young players, and see if they can get the ship rolling again in a couple of years. I don't think it's a bad idea. Not saying that it should happen because the Patriots may surprise us and get on a nice winning streak and get back in the race, get back in the thick of things. But obviously, also too with the division race, as far as the AFC East race is concerned, the other teams around them have gotten better. The Dolphins have shown improvement this year, and the Buffalo Bills have spent these last few years building themselves into a contending team. And well, I mean,
right.
The Jets obviously are in a dire situation, but that's another story for another day. But pretty much the rest of the division around them has also gotten better as they've lost talent and as they've kind of they've kind of played, underneath their normal standard of football, what it normally is. But I don't think it would hurt to at least take a look at possibly going through some changes heading in the next season. The Patriots had one of the best runs in pro sports history of any sport, and unfortunately, all good things come to an end.
Yeah, it happens for everybody, and you figure with Belichick, he's always a step ahead, and he's figuring something out right now to get, if not salvage this season, to put that team in a position where they can get people right away back in 2021 to make themselves competitive again. A lot of people are talking about the quarterback class in the 21 draft. Imagine New England getting themselves in the mix for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields and, coming right back around in 21 to, possibly be competitive again or at least start the steps to get themselves competitive again with a new franchise quarterback. I wouldn't sleep on them in that way. I'm definitely not going to sleep on the rebuilding skills of New England and Bill Belichick. But at the same time, going back to these next week or so with the trade deadline, it's interesting to think of some of the talent that could be out there on the market if New England's going to be sellers. People like Stephen Gilmore, can be out there and really make some changes, be a game-changing guy and impact these races that we're going to have in the second half, in whatever conference he ends up in or, players like him, And I'm interested to see what could happen with that, with the guys that New England may be willing to give up, definitely. And you mentioned Miami too. Them starting to turn it around. They improved their record to 4-3 this Sunday, and they interestingly enough beat the Rams. Tua, it looks like it's going to be Tua time down there in Miami, man.
It's good to see him, get out there. And, today he proved that he can handle the NFL, but he's got to be able to prove it consistently every week. Because keep in mind, they put him out there in place of Ryan Fitzpatrick, a proven veteran in this league, a guy who has taken, some of the league's worst teams and made them into, respectable teams, guided a few teams to the playoffs throughout the course of his career. So, Tua's definitely going to have to, keep proving every week that he can handle the pressure of being a starting quarterback in the NFL, especially for, a team that's really lacked at the quarterback position since Dan Marino retired. So he's definitely got a lot of expectations to live up to. Did pretty good this week. He's just got to keep it up moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, young quarterbacks, guys who really taking a lot of new guys are really taking storm in the league. Who's your favorite young quarterback right now in the league? Who's the guy who you really think is going to make the most impact going forward? Outside of Mahomes, of course, everybody loves Mahomes, and he's already has a title. But out of the guys who don't have a title yet, who do you think is going to be the next one up?
I love watching Lamar Jackson. he reminds me of Michael Vick in so many ways. The way that he could single-handedly change the course of a game with just his speed and his ability to get away from tackles, and his ability to kind of deceive defenses with his speed and have the arm to back it up as well. So I really enjoy watching Lamar Jackson, and like I said, it's almost like watching Michael Vick all over again, except Lamar Jackson's right-handed where Vick was a lefty. They both pretty much have similar speed, similar attributes, and I definitely enjoy watching him. And I know the Ravens haven't been that great this season. They have had their hiccups here and there, but moving forward, Lamar Jackson is going to be one of the greats in this league.
Yeah, they've had a tough schedule, and you look at the way that Pittsburgh has gotten itself right again. They lose to Pittsburgh. They had that big matchup with Kansas City. No shame in losing to Kansas City, of course.
Right.
But it just shows you how much the AFC has gotten competitive again. It's not just Kansas City and New England right now. It's Kansas City and Pittsburgh and Baltimore, of course, is still in the mix. And Tennessee is rising up now, and you could even look at a team like Indy with his defense and with a real quarterback now, a veteran quarterback who knows how to play in the playoffs, not necessarily win in the playoffs, but he's definitely been in the playoffs with Rivers. So there's competition out there, and it'll be interesting to see, how Lamar and that team will respond to, because they got a little bit more to prove. They had that tough out last year. Tennessee got them in that second round, and I know they got to feel like they want to make more of an impact and prove that they're of a championship level, and not just a good collection of talent, which they are, but they got to prove a little bit more.
Well, we're already halfway through the season, and that's a good thing because considering that we almost didn't have one this year, it's good. It's good to see that the NFL has managed to get games in. Obviously you did have some players test positive here and there, and you had to make some schedule adjustments, but it's a very positive thing that we've made it to the halfway point of the season already, and looking forward to see how these the second half of the season goes down. Just like you said, there's a lot of teams that are still in the mix, but over these next few weeks, we'll start to see the contenders separate themselves from everybody else.
Yeah. It's going to be some great matchups too, and everything. Going back to the NFC before we wrap up, who are you really like? Who are you really liking in the NFC? We got Brady and Tampa Bay. They took the loss here in Chicago a couple weeks ago, but they've really responded well coming out of that loss. And they actually play New Orleans next week, so that's going to be a nice statement game for those two. You got Seattle still out there in the West, and but we mentioned Arizona as well. Arizona looks like they're ready to compete. So and of course there's always the Packers, and we hoped the Bears, but there may be too much to ask for them.
Right.
But as of now, they're still a winning team. So. But who do you really see as the favorites right now in the NFC?
I'm definitely keeping an eye on Tampa. Obviously, they found a way to bounce back from that Bears loss. They're still a pretty good team themselves. They just might win the NFC South this year. I'm curious to see how that NFC West battle turns out. Looks like unless the Rams, obviously they've had their moments. San Francisco has been hurt by injuries, and that's why they've had their recent struggles. But looks like it's going to boil down to a race between Seattle and Arizona there. And and once the playoffs come around, it'll be interesting to see which team limps out of the NFC East. Excuse me. I mean that literally.
Least.
I mean, you see how bad that division is, but. Obviously the Dallas Cowboys haven't been the same since, Dak got hurt. We wish Dak a full recovery because he's entertaining to watch. He's constantly put that team on his back. But just seeing the rest of the team, the rest of that division, whoever comes out as NFC East champion, they're going to have their bumps and bruises, and they're certainly going to have their work cut out for them once the postseason gets here. So, but that'll be one to keep an eye on as well, because it's more than likely, as it is just about every other year, it's going to come down to that last week of the season.
Yeah, you got the Eagles and Cowboys going at it now, a 2-5 team and a 2-4-1 team playing for first place. That's crazy, but it looks like the Eagles are up right now, so we'll see how that finishes up. But yeah, Gabe, man, I just really appreciate you coming on again, man. Really enjoy talking football with you this week, man. We got to do it again sometime soon, man. Let everybody know what you got going on with Athlon, and how they can follow you, and what type of coverage to look out for from you.
I write NFL and college football stories every week for athlonsports.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Gabe Salgado82.
All right, there you go, man. Follow my man, and out here doing it, grinding just like a lot of us, man. And definitely a good follow for NFL and college football, like you say, information for life, information that you can trust from my man Gabe Salgado. But
Thanks,
same goes for me, and yeah, man, no doubt, man. We'll do it again soon, and yeah, we're gonna wrap up here though. We are RegalRadio.com. You can follow all of our exploits from War Media, and War on Anchor is our podcast platform. Definitely, have more shows coming up this week, recapping the Bears. 3 and Out for my man Ryan Bukovetsky, and Second City Sports with Sid Brown and the crew there. They're gonna be talking about the Bears as well. That'll be out on Tuesday, their next episode, and we have some more stuff too coming up on the White Sox and their decision to hire Tony La Russa, coming up from That's Davis show with Ken Davis. And yeah, just all type of stuff coming up, man. We keep up on everything. More from the NBA we should have coming up soon as we get closer to the draft and all that. And yeah, just keep rocking with us, man. Again, I really appreciate the increased input and everything today. The everybody putting in the comments and stuff, friends and everything. Shout out to my pops, James Means, who was in the mix too. And yeah, man, everybody, man, thank you for the love and support. And we'll keep back, like I said, next week, Sunday night, 9 o'clock throughout the rest of the NFL season, 9 p.m. from between 9 and 10, we'll be here rocking. I'll try to have some other guests each week and everything, and just wrap up what the Bears do each week and what the NFL does each week. And we just that's what this show is. And like I said, keep up with us with all our other stuff. If you're on this page, we are Regal Radio, War Media. Just keep up with us, subscribe, share. If you can rate us on anything, give us those 5 stars, and whatever highest stars they got, give us all that. And yeah, that's it for now, man. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe out there, be prosperous, and dump Trump. All right, if you ain't vote yet, go ahead and get out there, man. Go to the UC and vote if you got to on Tuesday. That's another thing we may have coming up this week, a little special thing about that. But yeah, keep riding with us, and we'll be riding with y'all as well. All right, talk to y'all later.